What is something that everyone seems to understand that you don't? How you're supposed to buy a house? Take out a mortgage and promise yourself you'll have a well-paying job for the next 30 years so the bank doesn't take it away. What happens when you can't get the mortgage? Edit. Thank you all for the advice and help. Told him all of this. He understands more, and TBH I learned a few things myself. Are you implying banks have learned their lesson from the 2008 financial crisis? Maybe. All I know is that where I am, a friend of mine tried 3 different banks to get a mortgage for a home. He has a baby on the way, and the banks all denied him. Said his monthly income wasn't enough, and for a $95,000 house they wanted him to have more than $7,000 down payment when he has $7,000 and makes $20 an hour. By the time you walk into a bank, you should already know you've got the mortgage. We decided to finally buy a house 3 years ago, and it was surprisingly easy. We had terrible credit. I spent a few months cleaning up collections accounts, sending pay for deletes, opening new credit cards, and paying them off every month. We started getting pre-qualification letters even before we started looking for houses. Pre-qualified at one institution and carried that letter around to the other banks, seeing if they could do better. One did. We only had maybe a couple thousand down on a $250,000 loan. Definitely no nest egg, but the closing office spent a couple days jamming that through, and it was done. Going into a bank to start the process is like going to a marathon to learn how to run. You gotta start small, run your credit, pull your financial picture together, start making yourself appealing. It takes a while, but again, I was shocked. I thought it would take years to fix our credit and save enough down payment. That really depends on the country someone lives in. There is no chance of getting a mortgage in Ireland if you only have a few thousand saved. Oh totally, this is US centric as our mortgage rules are fast and sloppy. We actually qualified as a first time homeowner winner with Freddie Mac, which is how the down payment was overlooked. You only get to pull that trick once. And it's a dangerous trick, because without savings/emergency fund, you're one paycheck away from foreclosure. So life is very tense for a while, and lots of people lose everything. It's not a great system. By the way guys, if you are enjoying this video so far, don't forget to like this video, and subscribe to the channel. It will help us out quite a bit, and if you don't enjoy the videos in the future anymore, you can always unsubscribe. Let's get back to the video. How people keep deep friendships in adulthood, like I try but with COVID, a job, keeping up a house, a relationship, planning a family. I'm exhausted at the end of the day trying to keep my partner and 2 dogs happy, and IDK how to keep up the deep friendships I once had. And don't get me wrong, I value them, and I still reach out and talk regularly, but it doesn't feel the same, and I'm just burnt out. I have very dear friends. I know they're just as busy as I am. Expectations are within reason. We don't see each other often, or check in too often. Weeks go by, but when we do, we pick up right where we left off. I have 2 or 3 friends like this. If they experience some sort of crisis, I make the time and give them more. I know they'll do the same for me. Exactly this. I've had to make hard choices to shed friends who don't understand that there needs to be mutual respect when it comes to the work/life balance with my home, my job, and my family. I spread myself thin and only have a few hours a day that are just for me to clear my thoughts. The true friendships I've come to value in my adulthood are the ones in which we can just pick up the conversation where it left off, or reach out during a crisis, or arrange a time when we are both free and can have a relaxing conversation to catch up. The ones I find stressful are the friendships that need constant attention. The conversation isn't allowed to stop because someone is constantly screaming for attention. Just because you aren't busy doesn't mean that you can then use someone else to fill some empty part of your life. Friends can help talk you through problems in your life, but getting obsessed with whether or not someone replies to you right away, that's a problem a good friend can rarely talk you through. This is how my closest friends and I are. We can go months without more than a casual text, but when we do actually chat it's like nothing has changed, other than a little catching up with each other. Caring about celebrities and royal families. How does following Kim make your life any better and your conversation any more interesting? And yet the average redditor avidly follows some YouTuber/streamer, which would seem just as weird to those who don't. It's weird to have parasocial relationships, but at least content creators, especially streamers, interact with their audience. Yeah, plus it's easier to relate with someone who talks and plays video games than someone who's some celebrity who wins award and has millions of dollars in outfits and makeup. It's only easier to relate to them if you yourself play video games, etc. If you are interested in makeup and fashion, then the Kar-Jenners will be a whole lot more interesting than some streamer. Fair point, though I mean specifically on relatability rather than level of entertainment. The stock market. If I start a company and need some money to invest into my company, I can sell small parts, shares, of the company to the general public. The two reasons you want to own shares in a company is either the value will go up because it's a growing company, or because the company is mature and give a cut of the profits to the people who own shares, dividends. What I never fully understand is that it seems to generate money out of nowhere for the company, because do I really own a percentage of the company? If I buy 1% of the shares of a company that just has steady income but never really grows, I might get a dividend, but am I receiving 1% of the company's profits? I assume not. Is that just the wrong way to look at it? What I never fully understand is that it seems to generate money out of nowhere for the company. This, generally, only happens when the company first goes public. They get listed on a stock exchange and start selling new shares to the public. That's why IPOs are such a big deal for companies, because they raise a ton of new money. But once that happens, all the shares have been sold, so anyone buying a share after that point isn't buying it from the company, they're just buying it from some rando, and obviously that transaction doesn't generate any new money for the company. If I buy 1% of the shares of a company that just has steady income but never really grows, I might get a dividend, but am I receiving 1% of the company's profits? Probably not, but you do own 1% the company. It's just that your ownership doesn't mean what you think it does. Your stock probably gives you the right to vote on certain shareholder decisions, like whether to hire and fire the people on the board of directors, and it entitles you to a specified percentage of dividends if the company chooses to pay dividends. But the decision of whether to pay dividends at all is made by the board of directors. Many companies never pay dividends and instead puts all profit after salaries etc. back into the company, with the thinking that as the company grows the stock price will rise, which will allow the shareholders to sell it for more money if they choose. If they do choose to pay dividends, the amount is decided by the board, and every company retains some of the profits to put back into the company, so it's not a straight here's your 1% of all the profits from last year, it's more here's your 1% of the total dividends that we've chosen to pay this year. How to work 9 to 5 and not want to self. So much this. I hate Monday to Friday jobs. Give me 12-hour, 4 on, 4 off shifts, or I want myself. I work 4 10-hour shifts every week, 3-day weekends. It's the best schedule I've ever had. I'd love to see that become normalized as the American working week within my lifetime, or better yet, 4 9-hour shifts. If you've already been at work 8 hours, what's an extra hour or 2 in exchange for a whole extra day off? Your day is shot anyway. What kind of quality activity are you going to spend that hour or 2 on after a full day of work and possibly commute? 3-day weekends are superior. As someone with a similar shift, alternating 3 and 4, 12-hour days on/off, I really wish this would become standard. Mostly because it is rather odd, and I get very tired of having to explain my weird work schedule every time I try to schedule a doctor's appointment. The funny part is that it would be better for most employers. You would not need split shifts, you can literally just have a single shift at most places, really 2 sets that have normalized work schedules. Yep. My company has 4 12-hour shifts and one 9 to 5 shift that's basically office work and engineers. The 12-hour shifts are the factory shifts, which is where most of the employees work. Instagram. Maybe it's too late for me to bother by now. You're lucky. Instagram is just super toxic and annoying. No, the content you follow has toxic and annoying fans. This isn't a universal flaw in the platform. This 100%. I use it as an art portfolio and follow other art portfolios. Anyone using it as an actual social media gets muted or unfollowed. All I ever see on Instagram is pictures of art because I've curated it that way. Anyone complaining about having Instagram feed/suggestions needs to take a good hard look at their habits because Instagram is pretty good at figuring out what to show you, for the most part. And frankly, anything where you're keeping up with other people's lives is always toxic. Full stop. It's the nature of social media, so stop using it to follow friends and family because it'll destroy you. Magnets. How do they work? Electrical current induces a magnetic field, and a magnetic field induces an electric field. Let me help you understand what that means. I'm not a fan of throwing jargon at people. That means for some reason electricity and magnetism are always present with one another, and when you do work, one you move the other. Some people like to think of them as part of the same thing. Think of a field as something that changes the space around it somehow without directly interacting. A magnetic field behaves a lot like gravity, except that it can push as well as pull. Why any of this is true? The short answer is we don't really know. If you find out, please let someone know. As we can mathematically describe the behavior quite well, just not the fundamental cause. There are some theories that appear to describe why, but nothing has ever really been proven. In a permanent magnet like this, there are these particles called a dipole. Because of the structure of a dipole, which is kind of elongated, one side of a dipole is positively charged and the other is negatively charged. When making a magnet permanent, we take another stronger magnet and use its uniform magnetic field to spin those dipoles to point the same way. When we do that work, each particle creates a little magnetic field around it. With enough of them, that field gets additively stronger. When these dipoles are in a random order, some of them are working against each other and the net total magnetic field is around 0. It's also worth noting the north and south halves of a magnet assume opposite charge orientations, positive and negative. This I don't know why, but someone else probably does. That's plenty long. If you have further curious questions, I'll answer if I can. Spending money on Twitch streamers. You spend money on concerts and for sporting events where singers or athletes entertain you. If you follow regularly a Twitch channel, they are entertaining you, so you might as well reward them if you're so inclined. But what I think they don't understand is why you would do it when you could get it for free. Like a concert or sport game cost money, but you get the same experience for free on Twitch. You sound like Homer Simpson at the museum when he found out he can donate $0 instead of the suggested $4.50. Even a concert can be free, the promoters cover the expenses, and you get to enter for free. That doesn't mean you can't buy a CD or a shirt from a band. Support people that entertain you and give you something to do with your free time. It's more of a general issue, I believe, not strictly related to Twitch. Some people think something free is, well, free, and some other feel like rewarding the time and or effort taken to provide something entertaining for free. To help people and support them in their creative endeavor. And you don't get the same experience. Being a supporter often allows you to participate in more ways than a random username. Having normal food budget every month. I spend like $300 to $400 a month on groceries just to feed myself. I mean, I know PPL save with meal plans and buying bulk, but I just get so sick of the same thing even 2 days in a row. I can't get past the need to make and eat something new every day with different ingredients. Not to mention snack foods and stuff. How do people not just immediately eat all the chocolate and chips and whatever else they bought within the first 48 hours? Even though at the time of buying it's meant for the whole week. Like, I know that pie is there in the fridge and it's meant for 4 days. but compost in a time when I'm watching a movie that thing is getting destroyed. My family of 3 consistently lives on a $400 a month grocery budget. We do a monthly Costco run. We made a decision to switch from wine, upwards of $10 a bottle, to drinking gin, and I make a weekly meal plan in advance that I stick to religiously. I realized we were spending a ridiculous amount to buy boneless skinless chicken breast, so I watched a YouTube video and learned how to butcher a chicken breast from Gordon Ramsay. I save the remaining carcass, wings, and skin to make homemade chicken stock. I have an instant pot, and I use it to at least a few times a week to make a lot of simple foods, beans, stock, a play sauce, in bulk, which I freeze. That said, I live in a house that allows me to have a garage fridge/freezer, which makes my bulk purchases and cooking much easier. But if you set a budget and really stick to it, it's feasible. I live in Los Angeles BTW. Benefits of home ownership vs renting. Home ownership, you own the place, you can do whatever you want with it. When the value of the property rises, you can sell it for a profit or take out a loan against that extra value. Stability of knowing you don't have to renew any kind of lease and your mortgage will stay the same. I believe cheaper in the long run because you'll eventually pay off the loan and won't pay any kind of rent equivalent other than taxes. Renting. Anything goes wrong with the house, the owner has to fix it. You aren't locked to one location for a super long time, usually only a year or two. Related to the above two, if a disaster happens like flooding or whatever, you don't really have to deal with anything other than your personal belongings, so no trying to fix the water damage, just move to a new place. Easier to get approved to rent a place vs the process to get a loan for a house. Depending on the market, but it can be cheaper to rent vs buy, at least monthly. I really hate the idea of owning a home. People push it, but renting can be a great trade-off in a lot of ways, provided you build equity in other ways. Building equity of any kind is the important thing, not necessarily just in a house. I'll take rent increases with no maintenance concerns, rather than a surprise $5,000 bill for a septic tank replacement. Just to pose a bit of a counterweight to your argument, I'll share my situation. My previous home was a rental house, well maintained, no maintenance required for the 3 years I lived there, besides a small drainage issue I could easily fix myself. Cost me $950 a month. Money that's gone for me 3 years got me down $34,200. I bought my current home. My mortgage is around $800, of which around $500 a month goes to actual debt, other $300 is interest. I made it a point to save the other $150 in case I ever need maintenance. For the past 2 years, that means saved up $12,000 in equity and $3,600 is maintenance money. How to get into a job that isn't retail? 0.0 strange as it may sound, how the hell do people find jobs that aren't literally from signs put outside a store? You try 100,000 times over and over again until you find one place that is willing to give you a chance. Even if it's a one, it doesn't matter. What matters is that afterwards you can add I have X experience working in Y job, which is WHQT will open the non-retail job offers for you, and from there it's downhill. An alternative is also to lie about experience. It's how my best friend got his first job. It was the only way he could get someone to hire him. If you have a skill, then LinkedIn. Get some buzzwords on your profile and add some friends with decent jobs to pad it out a little more. Eventually recruiters will find your profile in their searches and they'll message about jobs. I get almost daily messages from recruiters on LinkedIn. If you know what you want to do, maybe approach a recruiter in that field in your region. You'll be on their list and will forward openings to you more often. Some are even kind enough to help with your CV, etc. You need to learn a skill. Sign up for trades classes at your nearest community college. Reply to an ad for a shop cleanup person. I work in a machine shop and all of our cleanup personnel end up being trained to do more than cleanup. If they leave, they have a few skills and experience under their belt. Focusing. How people can have a normal interest or hobby or interest without obsessing over it for a week maximum and then dropping it for months. I also don't understand why people don't understand what I mean by my brain is really slow but angry, then really fast and loud. Like I'm being scolded. Some people get it, especially those with ticking time bomb parents. Have you been tested for ADHD? I just recently got diagnosed, and I'm also like this. I'm not sure I relate to the slow but angry, then really fast and loud brain, but the rest sounds familiar. I get really into a thing for a few days up to a few weeks, and then I completely forget about it for months to years and sometimes pick it back up again, and get obsessed again. Anything that's not the thing I'm currently obsessed with is hard to force myself to focus on, including things I want to do. As for how to manage it, I'm still working on that. I've been prescribed some medication, and that helps a bit with the getting myself to get more things done, and I'm also supposed to go find a therapist, but that has also been sitting on my to-do list. ADHD here as well, and I feel you on all of this, like on an extreme level. I'll get dangerously to something for a while, and then switch it up, like it didn't even happen. TV shows. I'll watch 2 seasons absolutely non-stop and then, literally midway through an episode, spontaneously pause it and open YouTube and end up there for a few weeks, then repeat. I somehow no longer care about that show I'm watching, even if I'm thoroughly enjoying it, but something is compelling me to go to YouTube and watch instead. Video games. I'll play a single one religiously before feeling burnt out from it, move on to another, and then repeat. My girlfriend jokes about how I'm a seasonal player because, apparently, around this time of the year, I play RuneScape 3, and in a month or so, I'll switch to League of Legends, and then switch to old school RuneScape a month or 2 after that, then Terraria, then a 3-day Minecraft binge, and then repeat. She brought this pattern up to me last year, and has successfully predicted my rotation since then. Surprisingly, I'm the same way with food. One week, I'll eat 1 fast food meal a day and nothing else. Another week, or 2, I'll make chicken, rice, and broccoli. The worst part is I cannot bring myself to cycle through any of these. If it's a chicken, rice, and broccoli week, that's all I'll be eating. If I'm on a League of Legends binge, I won't even log into RuneScape, despite having a few prestigious accounts and being an engaged player since 2004. It just feels like I'm not accomplishing my League of Legends goals, although in a few months the only goals I'll care about are my RuneScape goals, video game wise. It's like I completely shift all 100% of my interest from one thing to another, and there's no helping it. In terms of treatment, I have yet to seek it. I've just gotten so used to my habitual lifestyle that I know how to work with it. Driving. The rules of the road. Almost all road signs, either painted on the road or erected beside it. I sit in the passenger side seat, look out the window, and am completely oblivious as to what is expected of drivers when they approach certain signs. I can't understand how they just know who has the right of way when it seems to constantly be changing, and how they simply understand all the different rules of the road without even hesitating. It's so incredible to me that people are so good at following all of the rules of the road while navigating and carrying on a conversation like it's nothing. I can't even imagine doing one of those things at a time, let alone all of them together. Driving is surprisingly easy, a bit nerve-wracking at first, but it's easy to get over with practice. As for road laws and etiquette, practice. Driving is mostly a no-brainer. Signs will be placed in spots where you will automatically scan for them. Lights, signs, lines and so on will subconsciously guide you, and your speed/distance is just audio-visual cues you'll quickly have figured out. Seriously, if driving was an activity that would actually require constant complex thinking, we'd have millions of accidents per week. Obviously, driving a certain route for the first time takes some serious concentration, because you actually have to orientate and learn the route for the first time, but after 3 to 4 you've gotten familiar with the road. This is the end of the video. Thank you guys for staying with me till the end. If you enjoyed watching this, you might as well watch these too.